Hello aspirants, as you know that we are doing the trend analysis of GS mains papers, and I believe that all of you must be anxiously waiting for the analysis of ethics paper. Being a teacher of political science, I have a special interest in discussing the ethics paper because I believe that it is a part of the strategy of political science students to gain a mileage if they focus on the three papers. One is obviously GS2 because it gives them a natural advantage, but there are other two areas where they have huge advantage. One is essay, which we have already discussed, and now there is a ethics paper. So with me is our teacher on ethics, Sahil Saini, who doesn't need introduction. And with Sahil, I believe that we can bring a very fresh perspective to the ethics paper. So, as far as ethics paper, today, I will be asking questions from Sahil because I would like to hear the expert opinion on this particular paper, and I believe that all of you must also be waiting for. So, let's begin, Sahil. So, what is your overall impression about this paper? If we see the trend from last 2 3 years, how will you rate this paper? Comparatively simpler or a challenging one, and how difficult it would have been for a students to reach to the level of, I believe, the marks of 140 to 150.
Thanks, ma'am, for having me here. Now, this particular year's paper, ma'am, I don't believe that the paper was much difficult compared to the paper that came in 2020, because particularly the case study part was little bit typical in the last year.
Yeah, I think many students could not complete the
Yeah,
paper
yes,
last
ma'am.
year.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
But this year paper, I must say, was very lengthy. Particularly the section A, the
Acha.
question number first A and question first B, they were very lengthy. Because if we, for example, if we just take the example of question 1B, the question asks 10 values which needs to be there in a public servant, and not just they're asking the 10 values, rather they are also asking specifically the ways to ensure that non-ethical behavior is not there.
So it will be difficult
Yes,
to compress
yes,
in the word limit.
yes,
That will
writing
be a, yeah.
150 words will itself become a, it will become a kind of a challenge, and the aspirants, I believe, will be wasting a precious time into this question. So the paper was lengthy, not very much difficult.
So I believe that there has to be a lot of writing practice,
Yeah.
which is required in this ethics
Yes,
paper.
yes, ma'am. One thing which is sure is that now you don't have the capacity in the exam to think and write.
So you
Now,
should be fully
yes,
prepared
yes, ma'am.
beforehand. Fine. So as far as the case studies is concerned, is there any change in the trend?
This year, case studies, ma'am, were simpler.
Okay.
Case studies, as usual, they were also inspired from the events that had happened into the past. For example, the question number 10, it was on medical triage. So medical triage has been a persistent theme from past 2 years. And in this year, medical triage, how you will manage the medical resources, that question has been asked. So it was, I believe, a very much expected kind of a case study, which should have been the last year also, but it has been there now.
So it means no matter it is a philosophical paper or a theoretical paper, UPSC will always have lot of flavor of current affairs.
Sure.
So current affairs, even if it is ethics paper, keep track. When you read newspapers, I think look into also the ethical dimensions and not just the governance related dimensions.
And ma'am, I would like to add upon one more thing. If the questions we see them, every question, even the questions on the values, they are asking to give the relevant examples. So here, just giving the idea, just giving the philosophical idea will not suffice. Even if you are talking about the values, you need to give the example of certain civil servants who had lived as per those values. And in this capacity, reading the newspapers, collecting such kind of examples becomes very much relevant, because it is something which will give the extra edge. Moreover, there were certain other questions also. For example, quote based questions. We have the question number 3C. Now the question 3C, it is about life doesn't make any sense without interdependence. We need to know this. No, this case study, I believe, it has been inspired from this decoupling trend this is going on right now because the countries they want to
Yes,
decouple.
yes.
So interdependence, this case study, I
Yes,
believe.
yeah. So while interpreting the things, it is very important that if you are appearing for UPSC examination, you should always be interpreting in the contemporary context, and that can give you a mileage. So, Sahil, normally, they have given the quotes of Swami Vivekanand, Dalai Lama, and Eric Erickson. So, do you think that students have to read specific thinkers, or they don't have to worry much? They have to develop more of a skill of deconstruction because there are so many thinkers. There is a limit you can do it.
Yes,
Fine.
ma'am, as I usually point out this thing that in UPSC, we should not look for the drivers. We need to look for the Swiss knife. So
Okay.
in the thinkers also, we should not specifically be going for every thinker because then there are hundreds of them. We are not able to read about all of them. There are thousands of the quotations. We cannot read every quotation. We need to read certain philosophers which had given encompassing philosophies which can be used anywhere. For example, the question which came with respect to the Dalai Lama's quote that was there, obtaining the inner peace. If we read the Stoics philosophy, we can answer this question.
It's not
Yes,
necessary that you read each and every thinker because that is practically not feasible.
yes, ma'am.
You should have ability to understand and deconstruct, etc. So we will be giving you the detailed discussion of the essay, this particular paper where Sahil sir will discuss. But in this session, I would like Sahil to give some idea how students should have attempted, because one question I can see is on digital technology, because every time we are hearing about it, the cases and all lot of things are happening. So suppose what should have been the approach of this question? 2A, impact of digital technology as a reliable source of input for rational decision making is a debatable issue. Critically evaluate with the suitable examples. So, what debatable issues, what suitable examples could have been given?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Ma'am, this question, first of all, if we prima facie look over the question looks a little bit tricky. Now, the impact of digital technology on rational decision making, why this thing has been there into the question? Because over the last 2 years, we have repeatedly heard a word that is the infodemic. And the infodemic, it has impacted the general viewpoints, it has impacted the policy making, it has impacted every sphere of life. So into this capacity, the impact of digital technologies become very important. Now the keyword that has been mentioned into the question, that is a critically evaluate the suitable examples. Now in critical evaluation, we need to show the impacts on both the sides. Sometimes digital technology is helping us, but sometimes it is actually making the decision making irrational. So we can provide certain
In fact,
points.
there's a lot of misinformation
Yes,
also. Today, I was reading about what should be the role of United Nations in present time. And one area they said that United Nations should specifically focus is on ensuring or controlling the misinformation,
yes,
because
sure.
in the conflict zones, misinformation can create havoc.
Yes, in fact, one word, infoclips, information induced
Apocalypse.
violence. Yes,
Okay.
infoclips is also there.
Nice, nice. So UPSC wants us to remain in trend, updated. They don't want us to be bookworms. They want us to be rational. We should be critically analyzing the things. We should develop our logical abilities. And of course, something which we cannot miss is remaining in trend, be aware of what is happening. And even for ethics paper, I believe newspaper reading is going to be very, very important. And I can see some traditional questions are also there, I believe. Attitude, emotional intelligence. So is the paper on expected lines?
Paper, ma'am, yes, I will say that the paper was well balanced. Almost all the areas have been touched by the UPSC. And there were, I'll not say that there were certain bouncer type of questions, because it's, as we can see in the last year, there was a question on NEP that was asked in GS4. People or aspirants were expecting it to be asked in GS2, though it came in GS4. But this year, I'll not say such kind of bouncers were there, but paper was very, very lengthy. And in this paper, you cannot afford to think in the exam. So what I say, that absolute clarity over the concepts of it is there. And if you have the different dimensions, because every question is asking to illustrate with examples, so if more the dimensions, more the contemporary themes you have, and everything, if it is at the backdrop of mind, then only the paper, I believe, could be completed in time.
So, any advice, because this is the time when students will be starting to prepare for 2023, and those who are in 2022 state of preparation, they must be, I think, must have now reached to the level that they must have started their ethics preparation. So, for 22 students, what will be your suggestion? And for 23,
Yes.
what will be your suggestion?
Ma'am, first and foremost, what I'll say is that we need to correct our notions. There is one notion that GS4 is static. Now, it is not at all static. For example, the question on the refugee crisis has been asked. It is in the backdrop that the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees has said that Rohingyas are one of the most persecuted
Minorities.
minority ever in the history. So in this backdrop, a question on refugee crisis comes here. So if we are updated onto the current themes, we can anticipate the types of questions. For example, medical triage was also one question, which I believe has been influenced from the contemporary trends. The question on interdependence, it has, I believe, it has been influenced from this decoupling phenomena that is going into this last one complete year, digital technologies. So if we are reading the newspapers, if we know about infodemic, if we know about how there is even the biases in algorithms, so we call it as algorithmic biases, so how it is impacting the decision making, not in India, in the entire world. Large editorials have been there. It is a very big ethical controversy. People, the aspirants, they found that this is something, a bummer which has come, but I don't believe it is a very big issue. So you should be updated on dynamic trends, number one. Number two, I believe that a lot of answer writing practice needs to be there, because response time you can't afford in the exam. So everything, the moment you see the question, you should be able to write that thing. And third, a right balance of the basic concepts and equating it with different dimensions will be giving an edge into the answers now.
So normally students ignore ethics and they think they will start preparation after prelims. I think that should be a wrong strategy, because here if you prepare in advance you can get a mileage.
Yes, ma'am.
Huh?
On this thing, one very important factor that we should consider is a psychological ease. See, after the prelims, we hardly have 100 days. In this 100 days, I believe reading a new thing will not be a very good strategy. You should prepare the things beforehand. These 100 days should be kept only for practice. Moreover, ma'am, if we don't prepare it before the prelims, there is a kind of a psychological burden that, okay, I had left one entire paper untouched. So this psychological comfort that will come, I think it will help more.
Yeah, I also believe that while giving this exam, our state of mind has to be very, very healthy, and try to cover the syllabus beforehand, because even if you clear the prelims and you are not prepared for mains, then also you are wasting your attempt. And UPSC, I always say, not just check your knowledge, it also checks your skill. And one important skill a student should have is time management. And if you will manage your time well, the advice is prepare even ethics paper in advance. It is actually a low hanging fruit. Fine. So it is a low hanging fruit. If with less efforts, you can get more marks. Think about it. Think rationally. This is the time. Prepare a strategy and work according to the effective strategy. I hope this discussion has helped. Very soon we will be coming up with the comprehensive discussion on this paper. Thank you.